Hey, what's up, and welcome to Brand Backstage, where you get a behind the scenes answer to any comment, question, or concern that I received during the week about the mortar. If you heard me, if you've watched me for a while, you hear I always talk about the content online. There's bricks and there's mortar. The majority of the content online is the bricks, the core concepts, the core ideas, the core strategies, the core steps, that type of thing. However, it doesn't always get into a lot of the detail um, behind the scenes. And so, what I'm trying to do is just get a little bit deeper than the normal typical content by answering someone's question that I received during the week. And this week's question is all about video. It says, "I like your videos and I find them inspiring. I practice talking about different topics or selling products, but talking really drains me. After spending 5 to 10 minutes talking about myself or a product, I feel exhausted. How do you talk so much?" I don't think he's actually asking me, how do I talk so much? I think he's wanting to know, how do you train yourself to be able to talk on a topic without getting exhausted? And to be honest, um, I get just as exhausted. um, in the beginning, especially when I started shooting videos, it's because you're just so time intensive. This deep, intense focus of when you are zoned in, right? You have to be on your game. You have to be focused on a topic. You almost have to be thinking about the next thing that's coming along. And if you're all doing it strategically, you're also thinking about the overarching strategy behind it. Especially when you're doing something like this, which is kind of off the cuff rather than being formally scripted in some form or fashion. And I try not to script a lot of my stuff anyways. I might have like a format or an outline that I follow, but for the most part, I don't script, but maybe, 20, 25% of the time max. And so, um, first, let's get into why I wanted to answer this question. Well, first, I think the content I've been doing this month has really been, I chose it because it kind of has the theme of people who, during Corona, during the virus and the lockdown and all the things that are going on, business is a little bit different. And so a lot of people are doing business, moving to this online business kind of setup. And last week we talked about which platform is most important. This week, I think, a lot of people are trying to get their message out to video because video is so hot right now. A lot of the experts are touting um, video because it is persuasive. You get to see this authenticity of how a person naturally reacts behind the camera or in front of other people when they know other people are going to be watching. However, the struggle is that putting out content online is, one, scary, right? Like you're putting yourself out there in front of not just like a community that you kind of know that's local or small or people who support you and follow you, but this can be seen by the whole world, right? Or at least a very large group of people who might not just be in that inner circle that already kind of know you. And so the reason that it's scary is it's hard to create content that is good. And I say that because there's a lot that goes in up front to putting in really good quality content. You have to put in the research about yourself and your business and what you stand for, right? The brand piece of your business. You need to look into your audience and what they want and what they need, what they're striving for, aspiring for, and what their consistent roadblocks have always been. Um, and then you have to do all of that research to identify and pinpoint very specific questions to do that. Another problem is just the inconsistency. It's a process to do this, to schedule out, to sit down, to take the time to do this. Even before that, take the time to think about it, and then deliver it on the same day, weekly or monthly. Monthly is really kind of the minimum for a lot of people. Um, Many content marketers are talking about like daily, and some of the, top experts who can produce content very quickly, or who are what's it called? Documenting or putting out loads of content a day, right? And so we get kind of overwhelmed and frustrated by that process of having to do that and then get that out consistently. So putting out bad content is a struggle. Putting out content consistently is a struggle. And then, as this question asks, content in general is a draining process. There is a lot of focus, a lot of energy that goes into doing it. And if you're doing that day in and day out, along with handling clients, along with working with your team, along with handling all the other responsibilities that you may have depending upon your position, it can be a daunting task in and of itself. And so video is probably the most fatiguing because you not only have to write the content or think about that content, but you have to show up here physically as yourself and really put your best game face on while doing it. So how do we solve that, right? Well, you can do what I was saying before, documenting. Well, that's what Gary Vee talks about all the time, and that seems to become the new thing is documenting, is capturing what you do in the moment on video, on audio, and then later editing that, doing post-production and tweaking it so that you can catch those authentic moments that just happen naturally and use that as content, right? However, there's a process for that. You have to always remember to have either this or have someone following you around and doing that and capturing it. And then you have to have somebody who's editing and doing all the post-production stuff that I was saying. And so I don't want to get into all of that. Kind of the thing that I bring up that's probably most important initially, that I think that I've worked with clients before, is when you ask the question, how do you talk so much? So how do I deliver content consistently well, without being exhausted? The first question that came to mind for me, and this is the question I think you should ask yourself, is, do I love it, right? Do I love the topic? Do I love the people that I'm speaking with? And do I love this platform? This format. And so what I mean by that is, did I choose a topic that I absolutely love, or was it just I was modeling someone else and I heard that was the thing I need to do, right? If you're doing that, it's probably not going to be in line with you, right? It's not going to be aligned with your soul, your spirit, your energy, all the stuff that really makes content truly authentic and exciting and engaging, right? So that would be number one. It would be the first question I ask, and I have 4 questions I'm going to ask you. The first question is, do you love that topic? Also part of number 1 is also the format. Do you love the format? So some people, video is not their thing. I know everyone is touting video right now, but if you're a great writer, go write. Write it a lot. There is plenty of ways to make a lot of money writing, especially in a content-heavy marketplace like it is right now. Video is great, but written is still powerful. You can write for publications. You can guest blog on places. You can blog on your own site. You can do all kinds of things with written content. You can create plenty of ebooks in which, we won't get into this, but that can build into your funnel. You can add that into your funnel. Tons of things that you can do with all of that type of written content on your website. The question number 2 I have is, do you have a curriculum? What do I mean by that? Why is that important to video? If you have a core curriculum or system, process, framework, then content becomes easy because you know in your head exactly where the content fits. For example, where does video fit in my system? Well, it's a subtopic in module 3 of phase 2 of my system. So I know exactly kind of a lot of times where my ideal client is at this point in time. And so speaking to this allows the content to flow really easily. It allows me to also talk about things that may be coming up prior to shooting video, as well as things that they must consider after video. And so if you don't have a core curriculum, I really recommend sitting down and taking the time to think about where in my system does this content fit, or do I have a system? And if you don't, create that system or that curriculum so that you can speak to those things for your audience specifically. And when I say those things, it's those things that happen before, those things that happen during, and those things that have to happen after for the content that you're delivering in that moment. So that's question number 2. Number 1 was, do you love it? Number 2 is, do you have a curriculum? Because that will make you not have to think as hard, which is going to be draining you of energy. You won't have to be jostling around all this information because you already know your system, which won't fatigue you as much during shooting. Question number 3 is, do you prepare? Do you have a process for preparing for video? As I was mentioning before, I don't prep in terms of, I don't script, right? I don't spend a ton of time scripting out my content other than some of my deeper, longer training videos, just because it's so much content that I really want to make sure it's clear and almost step by step. And so in this case, what I mean by prep is I'll do some audience research. I'll make sure that I find a question that is really aligned and relevant with what I'm thinking right now for my monthly theme or even my weekly topics. And then from there, I'll just kind of lay an outline. And so I know that my outline will have, for example, in this one, it'll have an intro in which I initially, talk about what the show is about, talk about the promise of the show, which in this case is this question, right? From there, I go into one of two things of proof behind the proof of this, in this case, video. Proof video is so hot right now, and I kind of told you at the beginning, it's just kind of going meta, because I was talking about proof of why video is so hot right now, how some experts are talking about doing it daily, multiple times daily, at least multiple times weekly, and at minimum, monthly. And a lot of people say that's even outdated now. So I have that promise or the proof. So I have the intro, the promise, the proof. I have the problem that I talked to you. I talked to you about the inconsistencies, the content is not being good. And I talked about this being fatigued, right? So sucking the energy out of you when you shoot. And so that is part of my process. And then I'm going into what is the key learnings I want to teach them right now. And it's these 4 questions, right? Do you love it? Do you have a curriculum? And do you prep right now? And then we have one more. So after process, then I'll go into whatever my final steps are, which you'll kind of see, but I'm not going to share. You have to work with me. No, just kidding. My final steps are basically giving you kind of the big picture of where this lies in my system, which I kind of talked about. I don't do that normally on these. And then I also want you to progress. So I try and share, what do I want you to do next, which is kind of, a typical call to action. But in this case, this isn't really a call to action tool for buying anything from me or for moving forward with me. It's really the call to action at the end of this is really getting you to ask more questions. I'd love to help. I'd love to want to get specific answers or comments, questions, or concerns that you have so that I can answer weekly to any of those questions and support you in that process. So back to where I was, 3 questions. Do you love it? Do you have a curriculum? Do you prep? If you've answered those with, yes, I love it. Yes, I have a curriculum. yes, I prep, you probably aren't one of those people that are exhausted. However, you may be exhausted for this last piece is, do you practice? Because although you love it, although you have a curriculum, although you prepared the outline for how you want your video to go, uh, if you've never done video, or if you've never done public speaking, or if you rarely do it, this practice in general, um, this skill in general is and can be very exhausting. And so what you want to do a lot of times is just prepare yourself to shoot. Get on here, record something, shoot it, and just start to get your flow, start to get your feel for what works for you, how you want to flow, how you want to drop your knowledge. And then once you do that, start to find out and really build a resilience really to the energy it really takes to follow through with a video. And so those are the 4 questions. Do you love it? And if you remember, I said, do you love the topic? Do you love who you're speaking to? And do you love this format? Do you love the video format? Number 2 is, do you have a curriculum? And like I said, it doesn't have to be just a curriculum. It could be the system that you use. It could be the process flow. It could be the framework that you explain to people for helping them go from A to B, whatever that is. Underneath that, there should be, and it's different for everybody, but there should be phases or chapters or steps. And then there's probably topics within that, and then subtopics within that, or modules and then topics and then subtopics. But you have a curriculum or a system or a process in which where this content fits in that system, so it's easier to speak to. So that's number 2. Do you have a curriculum? Number 3, do you prep? So do you prepare for this? Really, what is that very simple outline for you to be successful shooting video for you, right? Don't make it too specific because you can become more robotic. However, if you need that initially, do it until you practice it and it starts to flow. Then, boom, you're ready to rock. So make sure you prep an outline in which maybe probably just has bullet points and stuff like that. I used to have behind here would normally be like a whiteboard that I'd look at to just take a peek every once in a while of what those topics are. Now, every once in a while, I'll just jot down some notes because I know my system, I know my process, and it kind of flows. So that would be number 3. Do you prep? And then number 4 is, how much do you practice? If you're documenting and you're capturing an authentic answer or response in the moment, you'll see how you look naturally. However, when you're shooting an actual video like this, where it's recorded and you're creating it and you're laying out content, then it's going to be a little bit different, right? It's going to probably exhaust you because you're not in that moment. You're not thinking about it. It's just happening, right? That's ultimately why you want to practice, is you want to practice until it becomes so natural that you don't get exhausted when you shoot video. You could sit here and shoot video. I shoot these videos all day long for clients. So when you work with me, my clients will literally send me questions like these throughout the week. And I will hop on here, or I will hop on the Marco Polo app on here, and I'll shoot a quick video for them explaining the answer to the question that they have. And if I have tools or deliverables that go along with it, then I'll just send them those tools in that process. So that's my answer for today. I hope that helps you with a behind the scenes look of what I think about when answering this question of how do you talk so much without feeling exhausted when shooting video. Get really, really good at practicing, preparing, design the curriculum so you know where your content is, and then make sure that you are building a brand around a topic and people that you absolutely love to help. If you're not, at some point in time, you are going to get trapped in a business that's just like the day job that you probably tried to leave or are trying to leave right now. Um, and it's just going to be the same thing. You're going to end up getting frustrated, restless, and unfulfilled. So if you have any other questions, please drop them below. Feel free to leave comments. Um, Anything that you need support on, drop them down. If the more specific, the better, and I'm happy to help you. This is Backstage. I'm Brandon Sobotka, and I will see you next week. I'm out.